So today we have our notes for finding slope and rate of change from graphs and tables for this first page. And then our second page, it's the same thing, but from word problems, okay? And there's a lot of notes for this today together as a group. I'm actually not going to go through the whole thing. I'm only going to go through a couple of problems on both pages just because I want to make sure we have enough time to cover both pages, both topics. But our first section here for the first page, this is from graphs and tables. First couple of questions, numbers 1 through 3, these are with our graphs. So you can see here, number 1, we have Paul's job. Let me put the pen on here. Paul's job. We have his total pay in dollars and then the hours worked, okay? Rate of change is very similar to slope. So let me zoom in so we can see this graph a little bit better on number 1. And pretty much what it's asking us to do is just to find the slope. So you want to find 2 points where your line is intersecting on the graph perfectly. So here's 1 point here, and here's another point there. So it's crossing perfectly. It's actually crossing perfectly at every little section there. So you could have used any 2 points, but the closer your points are together, the easier it is for writing your final answer. You always want the simplified version when you're doing this. So we found our 2 points here, and it's pretty much like we're doing slope. That's our rise over run. So let's first do our rise. So if we're going up, I'm going to turn my pen on. If we go up, yes, we're jumping up 1 square, but you need to look, we went from 0 to 5. So instead of just saying we're jumping up 1 square, we're jumping up, it's 5. And then that's $5. $5. Let me rewrite that. I don't know why I put that behind it. Dollar sign goes in front. $5. My brain must be off today. That was our rise. And then we're going to get our run here. We go from 0 to 1. So 0 to 1, that is just 1. And that is 1 hour. Okay. So the rate of change for Paul's job, he gets the $5 for 1 hour. So $5 every 1 hour is his rate of change. That would be your final answer for number 1. It's just finding slope, but you just have to be a little more focused on the details to make sure you have every piece of information written in your answer. And personally, I probably would not take that job. $5 for 1 hour. That's not a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I personally want a little bit more than that. All right, so next question here, number 2. We have, let me scoot it down. We have Todd's account. We have the amount in dollars and number of years. We're talking about Todd's money in his account over the course of years. So we need to find first 2 points where the graph is crossing, it's intersecting perfectly. So here's one here. If I look at this one, it's not crossing perfectly anywhere, so we're gonna just erase that. And then again here, that one's not perfect either, so not this one. Here, it's also not perfect. Keep on going. That one's not perfect. This one also not perfect. Keep on going until you end up here. This one is perfect, pretty perfect. Okay, so that is what I mean by finding where it's intersecting perfectly. It needs to be in the middle of the graph where it's intersecting and the little squares there. Okay, and then again, we're going to find our rate of change. It's very similar to our slope, like the rise over run. So my rise, we're going from 200 to 300. So how much did I rise? If I went from 200, now I'm at 300. How much did it go up? You can turn your microphone on or you can type it in the chat. How much did it go up? I started at 200, then he went to 300. And you're right, he went up $100. So he went up $100. So that was our rise as 100. And then we need to get our run. Normally I have you guys count your jumps like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Normally that's fine. For slope, that's always fine. But for rate of change, you always want to double check. Check your axis, the x-axis and the y-axis. This one, we started at 0, and then we're ending at 10. So what is the change from 0 to 10? What's that difference from 0 to 10? How much did it change over the number of years? First we were 0, then 10. So what should I write for the run? What can I write for the bottom number? We went from 0 to, perfect. We're gonna put 10 on the bottom there, and that is 10 years. Okay, so $100 over the course of 10 years. And if you can reduce it, which this one, you can reduce your fraction, then always do that. We're going to divide top and bottom by the same number. What can I divide both of those numbers by to get a pretty number, to get a much smaller group of numbers?
10.
Perfect. Let's divide top and bottom both by 10. Divide by 10. So then we end up top. The numerator 100 divided by 10 is 10. And remember, that's still dollars over. And then on bottom, 10 divided by 10 is 1. And that is years. So 1 year, $10 every 1 year is how much Todd's account is gaining. $10 every 1 year for Todd's account. Okay, going on to our next one here, number 3. Oh no, I'm not going to do number 3, sorry. I'm going to skip that one. But it's pretty much the same thing like we've been doing. So if you wanted to practice that one on your own afterwards, you can. Because I have the answer key posted on Schoology. So going on to the next one here, number 4. Number 4. I can get my pen to pop up here. So this is our table. These ones are going to be probably a little bit more challenging at first, but then they're just pretty much the same thing. So we have Donna's yard service, we have our hours worked, and amount charged. You could put this in a graph, like we just looked at our graphs there a minute ago, and then find your pretty much your slope from there. But we could also do it from just looking at our table, the information in our table. So let's first label with X and Y. First is X, then Y, okay? So if you want, you can put it next to it. These are the X's, and these are the Y's, okay? This is one point, this is another point. This is where we're going to use the slope formula. That slope formula equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1, which we did that last week. Okay, so before we do that, we need to finish labeling these points. We need to put the little tiny 1s and the little tiny 2s. So the first point here, this first one puts the little tiny 1s, and then the second point is the little tiny 2. And then we're just going to take our information from here, and we're going to plug it into this formula. So now we can start plugging it in. I've got my m equals. Now I'm going to look for y2. y2 is 17, and then I have minus. There's the minus sign. And then I'm going to look for my y1. y1 is 11 all over. Now I'm looking for x2. Here's the x2, which is 2. And then minus x1 is 1. Okay, and then we're just going to simplify up top. We can do our subtraction. 17 minus 11 is 6 over, and then on bottom, the 2 minus 1 is 1. And then let's just give it a little bit more piece of information. So the 17 and 11, the 17 and 11, they both have the dollar signs next to it. $17 minus $11 is $6. And then the 2 and the 1, these were hours, so 1 hour. So 2 hours minus 1 hour equals 1 hour. So Donna's yard service, she is charging $6 for every 1 hour. Okay. Going on to our next one here, number 5. Number 5, so we have our delivery service charges, the miles traveled, and the charges. So first, let's label X and Y. We have our X's and our Y's, okay? So again, X's and Y's. We have our first point is this top one, X1, Y1. And then our second point, x2, y2. Again, we're plugging it into this formula, y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Okay, so what can I put up top for what minus what? The y2 minus y1. What would I put there up top? You can turn your microphone on or you can type it in the chat. What would I put instead of y2 minus y1? What minus what? You can type it in the chat or turn your microphone on.
Can you say it one more time?
I'm looking for what would I put instead of saying y2 minus y1. I'm going to use some of these numbers here, either the 1, 2, 14, or 21. I'm looking for what two numbers can I put there instead of saying y2 minus y1. What numbers am I going to put up top here?
21 minus 4.
Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. And I see, Ethan, you also wrote that 21 minus 14 in the chat. And that is correct. We've got our y2 is, whoop, my pen's going crazy. We have 21 minus my y1, which is 14, all over. Now let's do the x2 minus x1. What can I put on bottom? What minus what?
2 minus 1.
Perfect. We have our x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 1. Awesome. Now let's just simplify, reduce our fractions. Up top, our subtraction 21 minus 14 is 7. Over, and then on bottom, 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay. We need to give our pieces of information here. The 7 and the 1 needs to have some words or symbols. So let's go back. The 21 and 14. Here's my 21 and 14. They both had the dollar sign. So it's $21 minus $14 equals $7. And then what can I put next to the 1? What word would I put here? What word would I put there? We're looking at the 2 and the 1. If there's no words next to the numbers, then look at the top of the table. What word could I put next to the 1? I heard something. What'd you say?
Miles.
Miles. Perfect. That is exactly what I'm looking for because that's our miles traveled. So let's go ahead and say we have 1 mile. So the delivery service charges at $7 every 1 mile. That is how you would read that answer. Okay, and technically these are always going to form, it's a constant rate of change. So you could use any 2 points. If you wanted to, you could have used these 2 points and you still get the same final answer, this $7 every 1 mile. The thing is, you're just going to have an extra step and you're going to have to reduce your fraction. So if I were you, when you're doing rate of change, always pick the 2 smallest sets of numbers because that's going to be the easiest one to work with. Okay. So far on this page, page 1, I skipped number 3. If you want to practice that one on your own, you can, and you can check it on Schoology. Same thing with number 6. I'm also going to skip number 6 because you can try that one on your own and check your answers on Schoology. We just have a lot of notes today, so I can't go over everything because I want to make sure I go over both topics, both pages. Are you guys good with page 1 so far? Everyone go with page 1 so far?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So going on to page 2 here, we have our word problems, or the second page of this assignment or set of notes. Our word problems, there's a total of 6 questions. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these together because I want to make sure we go through our important information here. So let's start with our number 1. We have our rate of change / slope word problems. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this. A climber is on a hike. After 2 hours, he is at an altitude of 400 feet. After 6 hours, he is at an altitude of 700 feet. What is the average rate of change? Okay, so we're going to have to write out 2 points, x comma y, x comma y, x, y, x, y. Okay, so we've got our piece of information here. We have the 2 hours, he is at an altitude of 400 feet. Okay, when you're doing this, time is going to be written first. So out of those two numbers, the 2 hours and 400 feet, which one represents time? The 2 or the 400?
2.
Yeah, the 2 hours. So that one is going to be written first. That means the 400 gets written second. So X is 2, Y is 400. Let's go on to our next one. And then it says after 6 hours, he is at an altitude of 700 feet. So we have a 6 hours, 700 feet. Remember, time goes first and then the feet. So how can I write this one? What, comma, what?
6, 700.
Perfect. 6 is our time. That's the 6 hours. And then the 700 feet. Okay. And then for this one, again, we're using our slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Let's just finish labeling these points. This is our first point. This is the second point. So now I'm going to look for my y2 minus y1. Y2 is 700 minus y1 is 400 all over x2 is 6 minus x1 is 2. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify. 700 minus 400 is 300 over, and then 6 minus 2 is 4. And then we can actually simplify a little bit more. Divide top and bottom by the same number. We want to end up with a 1 on bottom. We want a 1 on the bottom. So 4 divided by what equals 1? 4 divided by what equals 1? You guys tell me.
4.
Yep, we're going to divide top and bottom by 4. So on bottom, I have the 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now we just need to do, what is 300 divided by 4? 300 divided by 4, you guys got it? You can turn your microphone on or type it in the chat. 300 divided by 4. For the last part of this, we have the 300 divided by 4 is 75. Okay, we need to add in some words. Okay, so let's look back here. The 700 and 400. Is that representing hours or feet? The 700 and the 400. Is that representing hours or feet? Perfect. It is representing feet. So 75 feet because it's feet stay on top. Feet, feet, feet. So 75 feet over. Now let's talk about our bottom ones. Here we have the 6 and the 2. 6 hours, 2 hours. So 6 hours minus 2 hours equals 4 hours divided by 4. And then it's 1 hour. So this climber is climbing 75 feet every 1 hour would be the final answer there. Okay. Vanessa, I think your microphone is on if you want to mute that, unless if you have a question for me. All right, let's keep on going. Number 2, it says a scuba diver is 30 feet below the surface of the water at 10 seconds after he entered the water and 100 feet below the surface after 40 seconds. What is the scuba diver's rate of change? Okay, so we're going to write our 2 sets of points, X, Y, X, Y. And remember, time goes first. Let's circle our 2 pieces of information. A scuba diver is 30 feet below the surface of the water at 10 seconds. So here's our first piece. How can I write that 30 feet, and it's below, and 10 seconds? Which number should go first, the 30 or the 10? Remember, time goes first.
30.
Which one represents time, 30 feet or 10 seconds? Our time is the 10 seconds. Let's do this 10 first because we're doing time first. And then we have our 30 feet below surface, okay? But think about it. If this is the, like, here's the surface of the water. This is like land and mountains. Not that we have any mountains in Florida, but let's just pretend. And then we have like under the ocean water. This is below. It's underwater. Okay, if this right here is 0, these numbers up top are positive. That means these numbers down here are what? If it's below 0. What kind of number is less than
Negative.
0? Negative, perfect. So that means since this 30 feet is below the surface, it's going to be a negative 30. Okay, and then let's keep on going. And then we have, so at the 10 seconds after you enter the water and 100 feet below the surface after 40 seconds. So how can I write this one here? We have the 100 feet below and 40 seconds. So how can I write this one? What, comma, what?
40, comma, 100.
Perfect. First is the 40 and then the 100, but it's 100 feet below the surface. So is it a positive 100 or a negative 100 if it's below the surface?
Negative.
Perfect. It's going to be a negative, okay? Now let's go ahead and plug it into that formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and label these points. So now let's start plugging it in. Whoops, that is not an M. M equals, looking for y2 is negative 100 minus y1 is negative 30 all over x2 is 40 minus x1 is 10. Okay, so up top you notice we have minus the negative. You want to be really careful with that. Make sure you write it down correctly. But let's go ahead and fix it because minus and negative, that gets really messy. Minus and negative really just turns into a plus sign. So I'm going to rewrite it here. It's pretty much saying negative 100 plus 30. That's really just saying negative 100 plus 30 over, and then this 40 minus 10 doesn't change. Okay. So now let's simplify. We have negative 100 plus 30. What is negative 100 plus 30? You guys tell me. You tell me, what is negative 100 plus 30? So we have a negative 1. What'd you say? Say that again.
Negative 70.
I got a negative 70. And someone else in the chat, negative 70. That is correct. So negative 100 plus 30 is negative 70. Now we're going to put that over, and then we have 40 minus 10 is 30. Let's go ahead and reduce this fraction. If you can reduce it, always do that. Divide top and bottom by the same number. What can I divide both of these numbers by?
10.
10. You are right. Divide top and bottom by 10. So then we can get our final answer. Negative 70 divided by a positive 10 is negative 7 over 30 divided by 10 is 3. Okay, let's add in some words. We're going to need to do the feet and seconds. Feet and seconds. Okay, so up top, the top number worked with the 100 and the 30. So for my final answer, what can I put up top? Should I put feet or seconds?
Seconds.
Look back here at our very first thing. We had the 130 were up top. And then we had, let me change my color. Right, so we had the 130 were up top. It was 100 feet and 30 feet. So that means for our final answer, up top, it stays the same, and that is also feet. That means down below on bottom is going to be the other one, seconds, but let's just double check. We have the 40 and the 10. It's 10 seconds and 40 seconds. That's our bottom, so we are good to go for that. So the final answer you would say for number 2, the scuba diver's rate of change is -7 feet every 3 seconds. Okay, let's keep on going. Number 3. A rocket is 1 mile above the Earth in 30 seconds and 5 miles above the Earth in 2.5 minutes. What is the rocket's rate of change in miles per second? Okay, so let's have our first point and our second point. Over x, y, x, y. Our first one, we have 1 mile in 30 seconds. 1 mile in 30 seconds. So how can I write this? Remember, time goes first.
30,1.
Perfect. 30,1. And then our next one, it says 5 miles in 2.5 minutes. Okay, first we were talking about seconds. Now they're talking about minutes. Our final question is asking us, what is the rate of change in miles per second? So we need to change minutes to seconds. So how much is 2.5 minutes in seconds? How many seconds are in 1 minute?
60.
We have 60, so that's 1 minute. And then we have 2 minutes, so there's another 60. And then we have 0.5 minutes. How many seconds in 0.5 minutes? Half of a minute.
30.
Perfect. So you're really just going to add all of those together. 60 plus 60 plus 30. And then we end up with 150. Okay, so that's 150 seconds. Okay. So now we're going to use the 5 miles and 150 seconds. How can I write that second point with 5 miles, 150 seconds? Our time goes first. So which number is representing time, the 5 miles or 150 seconds? I know I don't have a lot of you guys in here, but I need something. Give me a guess if you're not sure, at least try and guess. Which one represents time, the 5 miles or 150 seconds? So out of these two, there you go, thank you. Out of these two, our time is the 150, and then we have our 5 miles, okay? I'm gonna label with the 1s and the 2s. And then let's go ahead and plug it into our formula. Y2 minus Y1. What can I put up top? What minus what for my top? Y2 minus Y1. What would I put up top? What minus what?
5 minus 1.
Perfect. My Y2 is 5 minus Y1 is 1. Over, what's my X2 minus X1? What minus what?
150 minus 30.
Perfect. X2 is 150 minus X1 is 30. And then let's simplify up top. 5 minus 1 is 4 over, and then 150 minus 30 is 120. Okay, they were asking us per second. Okay, so we want to get it down to just 1 second here. So we're going to divide top and bottom by some number. 120 divided by what equals 1? 120 divided by what equals 1?
10.
So let's think, what is 120 divided by 10?
12.
We have a rule, any number divided by itself, it's like an identity property, it's always just going to equal 1. So 120 divided by itself equals 1. So what should I do? 120 divided by what?
120.
Perfect. 120 divided by 120 equals 1. The number divided by itself equals 1. So that means we're also going to divide the top by 120. Okay, so now we have 4 divided by 120. Go ahead and tell me what that is. You can use a calculator for this one because you should get a decimal. Go ahead and plug it into your calculator. 4 divided by 120, and then tell me what you guys get. I want to make sure we all can plug it in correctly.
Nice effective swing there.
You get 0.033333.
Perfect. And did anyone else get the same thing or something different? You should get 0.0333 repeating. If you did not get that, you can either send me a message or say something to me, but I want to make sure you guys all know how to use your calculators too, because sometimes you can use your calculators on the exams, sometimes you can't. So you still need to get that practice with the calculators. So it comes out to 0.0, we'll just end it at that first 3, and then it's a repeating. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our words here. Remember, up top was the 5 and the 1. Are the 5 and the 1 for miles or for seconds? Miles or seconds?
Miles.
So let's look here. We have 5 miles, 1 mile. So the 5 and the 1 are representing what?
Miles.
Miles. Perfect. So the top number is going to stay miles. And then the bottom number, let's go back here. I'll use, let's say green. We have the 150 and the 30. Here's my 150 because we had to change it. And here is the 30. So what word can I put on bottom? What word is next to the 150 and the 30?
The second.
Perfect. So on the bottom, we have the 1 second. Okay, so our final answer here for number 3, it was 0.03 miles in 1 second is the rocket's rate of change. That is the rocket's rate of change. Okay. And last one together here, number 4. We have, it says, a teacher weighed 145 pounds in 1986 and weighs 190 pounds in 2007. What is the rate of change in weight? Okay, we got our X, Y, X, Y. We have 145 pounds in 1986. That's the year 1986. So remember, time goes first. How can I write my first point if time goes first? Would I do 145, comma 1986 or 1986, comma 145? Time goes first.
1986 and 145.
Perfect. That's the year 1986. That represents time. And then we've got our weight 145. Now our next one, 190 pounds in 2007. How can I write this ordered pair?
2007, 190.
Perfect. 2007 and 190. Okay, I'm going to label with the 1s and the 2s. And we're plugging into our formula, y2 minus y1. So we've got, you guys are good at this part, 190 minus 145 all over my x2 minus x1. So 2007 minus 1986. Okay. So up top, what is 190 minus 145? You tell me, what is 190 minus 145?
45.
Perfect. We get 45 all over. And then what is 2007 minus 1986?
21.
21. Awesome. And then we can simplify this. Divide top and bottom by the same number. And I'm going to help you guys out with this one. We're going to divide top and bottom both by 3. Okay, so up top, what is 45 divided by 3?
$15.
Perfect. 45 divided by 3 is 15. And I see that in the chat there as well. Good job. And then on bottom, 21 divided by 3. You don't need a calculator for this. You should be able to do this one in your head. What is 21 divided by 3?
7.
7. Awesome. Okay. So now we just need to add in our words now that it's simplified. Let's go back to our first problem here. We had the 190 and 145. The 190 and the 145. So what word can I put next to the 15? Up
Pound.
top. Pounds. Perfect. So here's my pounds. And then let's look on bottom. We have the 2007 and 1986, 2007 and the 1986. Okay, so there's no words here. So I'm going to help you guys out with this one. So, but what the 2007 and the 1986 are representing, they're representing the year of when she weighed those weights. So on bottom, we're going to write 7 years. Okay. But most of the time, if you ever have questions like this on a test, exam, something like that, they're also going to have the words there for you. Sometimes your answer might say like 15 years, 7 pounds. It might be flip-flop. So you need to know how to tell which one's which. But I wouldn't stress too much figuring out what word like should go there, as long as you know that you have a general idea that the pounds goes up top and then your years goes on bottom, then you'll be able to kind of figure it out there. So if you're like, I'm not sure what word I should put on bottom, but I know what word goes on top, then you'll be fine with that there, okay? And then that is the answer for number 4. The teacher's rate of change was 15 pounds over 7 years, okay? So the last 2 questions, numbers 5 and 6 on here, I'm not gonna go through them, but you can actually finish them on your own and check your answers on Schoology because it has all of the work posted on Schoology for you. But that is it for today. If you have no questions for me, then that is it. Tomorrow you're working on Alex, and then we have another Teams meeting on Thursday for our assignment. If you have no questions for me, you can go ahead and log out. But if you do, I will stay on here for a few more minutes, all right?